allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call shows that Kelly, Peter, and Dawn are not here at this time. I said Dawn will call them, but haven't seen her come in here. We'll go to September 7th, 2017 regular board meeting minutes. Any corrections or?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. September 14th, 2017, closed session committee of the whole.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Is there any agenda changes? Not that I know of. Not hearing any. License and permits.
Operator licenses number 94 and 95 for Mitchell Schrader and Lisa Meyer have received the police department's approval. So I will be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make
a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I take it there's no pre-registered citizens.
Probably not.
Committee reports, Senior Activities Committee.
There they are. The meeting was held this afternoon. We are throwing around some names for possible new committee members since we have one opening and another one that will be opening up at the end of the year.
I know someone who might be interested.
Well, great, we'll add them to the list. Strong Bones class has moved to the Opera House. We feel the foot care clinic is still doing well. The birthday parties and potlucks are doing well. I understand that the potluck people have sort of mutinied. You might say they've decided that they want to stay and partake of their potlucks here. They will not be going down to the Opera House to partake of meal site days when they have potlucks here because their food is so good here. This, I gather, is taking a lot of people off of their diets who are regularly attending. The library and tourist in your own town program that the library is doing and some of the seniors are attending is doing well. They were at the Black Otter Supper Club yesterday evening and they had quite a bit of information that came from the people there. Their next one is at Pork's on October 11th at 11:30 in the morning. And they understand that Pork has a lot of information ready for them on the history of his place as well. Gave them a meal site update, and there'll be more about that on our own agenda later tonight. Upcoming events and possible future programs, they're getting together a museum trip for November, planning on the dinner again in December. And Karen Dickrell from UW Extension gave us information on some programs from the Outagamie Caregiver Coalition and the Extension. And the library and the committee are talking about getting at least one of those in. Finished up some planning for Autumn Fest on October 25th. And we set our next meeting a date for October 25th at 3:30 right after the Autumn Fest. That's it.
Any questions from them? Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business from previous meetings. O-8-17, keeping of pets.
This was an ordinance that was voted to appear by the village board. We did have it for the first reading at the last meeting, and Bob Sorensen had suggested a change to it. The first line in A had been a combination of no more than 4 dogs or cats. Bob suggested that we keep the language very similar to the old ordinance, leaving it at no more than 4 dogs and or cats shall be kept on any premises. So if no one has a problem with that, this one would be up for a vote tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve O-8-17, the, is it just called keeping of pets?
To amend section 23.03A, keeping
Okay,
of pets.
23.03A, keeping of pets.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Outagamie County Nutrition Program meal site contract.
I will take that one. This is after Bob and Al had a telephone conference with Outagamie County Corp Council with some requests for some changes, and then it kind of went into a black hole for 3 months. It's since resurfaced. They made the changes. There's a little bit of back and forth. Ultimately, Bob has reviewed it, Carl has, I have, and after some back and forth, we are all in agreement as to the revised contract. We feel that it goes back to what we're looking at, is that there are some things that were being put on the village we felt that we did not want the responsibility of. And Bob made sure that we are, the liability is contained for what we are liable for, which would be any damage that we do to their equipment. And then there's some tweaks to the snow plowing as far as what time it will be plowed, and if not, we'll give them notice. So we were all comfortable with the final result. So this is, we're looking for approval of the contract and authorization to sign and execute the contract.
Any comments or questions on it?
When would this start? You know, or?
I think it should be, I think it's on there.
It's in the first paragraph.
Okay, I was gonna say
Okay.
all right, October 1, yep.
We don't have to do any marketing. I mean, obviously, I know you do Facebook page, but I mean, I know that was part of the original. That we were.
Right, it was saying that we would keep lists, and I can't remember what it was, but we have the responsibility of keeping some of the records, but then that's one of the things that we requested that they identify specifically what, so we still keep some of the records. But the other part of it, as far as notifying them of their legal rights, that we do not have anymore. So we're all, and Lynn reviewed this as well, so we're all comfortable with what our responsibilities are and aren't at this point. And then there was some concern for a while because we were being asked by the program manager about additional changes to the Opera House, and that's where this kind of came up again too, is because we weren't in agreement with that. But I was told by the head of that agency that any other changes, any construction, physical changes, they do have money for, and they would not be expecting that from us, because that was our concern.
They're gonna okay that with Carl before. we go in.
Absolutely, yes.
Hope so.
According to this, you are our contact person,
Yes,
even though they have contacted Chris Schultz today.
do you know who?
He said, and I forget.
Because this,
It wasn't Amy or Bonnie.
okay, because unless it was one of the other, it was the meal site or one of the other ADRC programs?
It was about the meal site for their electrical outlet.
All right, I gotta find out, because that was the issue what was happening was that Lynn was being asked about this electrical, and she said, and when the date was, and she said, after we get this contract in place, we will determine that. We're not gonna hand over the keys and set a date for it until these issues are resolved. So then, I didn't know if she contacted Lynn, then she contacted me, and I said, after we get the contract in place, then we'll do it. Carl didn't know she contacted me, and then she contacted Carl. And he wasn't there, so then she came to the front desk and got the key and let herself in, and so that's
And
why
then she was talking to another
And then
member
she
of the
was
public
talking
works staff
to-
then too.
Jeff. So that's why we identified, I contacted the agency and said, we need one contact person because,
Well, apparently in the email she sent Chris, she thought she was emailing Rob, because she kept calling him Rob, but
that sounds like,
it wasn't Bonnie.
Bonnie.
yeah.
It wasn't Bonnie. Apparently there were two people when Bonnie came.
Yeah, Mary.
That might be the other one. That was
Probably
the one that.
Sounds like maybe you need to get to your staff and make sure that they know that they don't handle it and it comes up.
Okay, so until that's I mean, obviously that we want to approve, the point is to approve it, but how do we make sure that
I will be contacting the agency supervisor again.
Carl, you're good with everything on here?
Yeah, we're gonna kind of play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. There's nothing that stands out.
And that's something that it's frustrating, but I don't want to hold up the contract for that. We will resolve that.
You know, we gotta make sure that they know that you are the contact, and you will pass it on to whoever.
Yes, absolutely. Because it was frustrating for staff too, because they felt that we're not informing them of what's going on, but they were actually just going in every which direction to get somebody to say yes to this electrical outlet.
So you're looking for approval today?
Yes, please.
I'll make an approval, motion approved for the Outagamie County Nutrition Program meal site contract.
Can you contact Chris and ask him to come?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. New business. R-19-17 Outagamie County Hazard Mitigation Plan Resolution.
I'll take this one as well. Oops. Outagamie County, this is a hazard mitigation plan that Outagamie County drafted. We do, it by default covers all the unincorporated areas of the community. This is a requirement by, I believe it's Wisconsin Emergency Management. And what it does is just identify projects and mitigation strategies to minimize the effect of natural hazards and disasters like tornadoes and flooding and so forth. In order to qualify, in the event of one of those storms, in order to qualify for some of the grants and the assistance funds, all communities have to have one of these plans in place. As I said, the unincorporated communities are covered by the county plan by default. Villages and cities are required to either adopt the county plan or to create our own plan. In my former job, I actually was responsible for doing this for the county level. It's pretty standard, and knowing the level of work that goes into a plan, I would highly recommend that we adopt the county plan and not try to create one on our own.
I would agree. I was just at the chief's meeting from the fire department aspect, and if we try to create our own, we're opening up a can.
Yes, it's not only a great deal of work, but it's also to the liability and everything else. And without the plan, then in the event of a disaster, a major issue, we would not qualify for a lot of that funding.
And plus, they got all the legwork already done.
Yeah. When I was in, did this with Marathon County, there's no community did their own. Even the larger cities like Appleton or Wausau over there adopted the county's plan because of the, for that reason. Plus, it's good to have consistency across jurisdictional borders.
Have you gotten a letter from the county for this, to sign up for that, to put the people in charge, like yourself and Al, probably from the village standpoint?
I think I had not recently. I think we already probably have somebody appointed already, and I think it may have. I believe it might have been our police chief.
Yeah, and that's the way. I believe the fire chief is also involved on that as well. The last time the tornado went through, Andy was the president. He was up north on vacation, and Patrick was at home, but we had nobody to sign the papers that day. I did, and so did Chief Sullivan, but I would imagine the police department's got to be involved in.
Let's follow up with, I can't think of her name now offhand, at Outagamie County. Yeah, that's it. Let's follow up with her and find out who is on that list. And we'll follow up with that to make sure that we have individuals that are present.
But I agree, it would be foolish for us to come up with our own plan. Just because I dealt with it before.
Right.
Well, and when I was at the county, what we ended up doing is instead of putting people's names in it, we put their positions so that anybody in that position could fulfill that role. So I am looking for a motion to approve this resolution and adopt the plan.
I'll make that motion to approve for resolution R-19-17.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Health insurance plan proposal.
Hey, I passed out this. I know it's pretty cloudy, but you actually received it at the last meeting too. At that time, I was had pretty much settled on this, but I said I wanted to look into it a little further because of the adding of employees, family members onto the insurance, hiked up our rates, our costs more, not our rates. And I wanted to see if there was anything to do to mitigate that any further. And I'm still proposing the plan that I did the last time, and the reason being is because if we look at the other plan proposals, it decreases the premium, but it would increase our HRA liability, so that the money that we pay to help offset the high deductibles, that would actually go up because any of these other plans with the lower premiums have much higher deductibles. I really don't see us being able to save any money other than what we're doing with this proposal here. We still have substantially increased our health insurance costs, but there's no way around that because, as I said, it was due to the adding of family members. We have 5 more people on our health insurance now than when I initially went out for bids. And you know, I jokingly made the comment about no more marry your children. I mean, there's no way to get them, you know, reduce the cost of our health insurance at this point any further. There are some options that we'll look into for next year. We just don't want to pull every one of them at the same time. So I'm still proposing that we go with the Arise Health Plan HMO. Right now we have what's called a POS, and the only difference between what we have now and what I am proposing is that out-of-network health insurance has no coverage in the new plan. And I mentioned at the last meeting that for the most part, the only impact that we'll have is primarily to Carl and myself because our children are out of the area. And if someone were to travel out of the area, but even then I think it would be covered because of emergency. So it has minimal impact on employees. I have notified all of them of this quite a while ago, sent it out and told them what was going on. I had some questions from employees, but that was it. I didn't have any pushback on it really, other than just asking for some clarification from a few. So I am proposing that we go with the Arise Health Plan HMO. That's identified with the star on that sheet.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, I do. Well, I mean, I would prefer it. Technically, it's an administrative thing, but in the past, the board has always wanted to see the detail of it and to vote on the detail, you know, on that part of it, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the, is it Arise Health
Yep.
Plan HMO?
Yes.
Effective date October 1, 2017.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. HRA plan proposal?
That's me as well. This was to try to mitigate some of the costs of the added or increased cost of health insurance. Currently, our HRA is for deductible only, and I have it identified in that second sheet that you have there. For single, the employee pays the first $250, the village pays the remainder until the deductible is met. I'm proposing that the employee pays the first $500, the village pays the next $1,600, and then the employee pays the last $500. And then I have outlined in there with family as well. What this will do, our historical usage is around 44%, so we budget for 50% of usage. And the savings we would realize in budget for going from the old plan to the new plan based on the employees that are utilizing the health insurance at this point and utilizing, you know, the HRA then, is just over $6,000. This again, I have notified the employees of, and again, they have been accepting of it. It's a hit to the employees, and I hate doing that because you know, when you compare us to other communities our size, we are lower paying. And actually, I was surprised to find out that same with our health insurance, we have higher deductibles than most. But that's the reality of the budget in 2018.
Any questions? If not, we need a motion.
They're all pretty good with it, huh?
Nobody has asked me anything. I haven't gotten any questions about it, and no pushback. With the health insurance, I had the questions. With this one, I didn't have any questions on it. And I sent it out, both the health insurance and the HRA, in an email to all employees probably a month ago.
yeah, I haven't gotten any feedback, so. I think everybody realizes that things are getting tighter.
Insurance is going up.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the proposed HRA as written. Do you want that worded any differently then? No, you're good.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Approved. Events policy.
I think this is kind of all three of us. Do
Yeah.
you want to start it? You want me to start it?
This is something we started working on last year, and it's an attempt to try to recoup some of our costs for all these events in town, and it's not meant to be punitive, and it's actually pretty lax, but it is an effort, again, to recoup some of our labor costs associated with all these events. If you add them all up, you know, we're looking at thousands of dollars a year that we just give away, basically. And I think me and Brian and Glenn and Diane had sat down and kind of looked at everything forwards and backwards, and kind of came up with this policy. Has anybody had a chance to look through it?
I did a little bit.
And if I could add a little in here too, is that while, you know, a lot of these costs, like for example, I know the more recent one with the Dash Down Nash, it isn't just, you know, utilizing staff that's already would be on. We do have to increase the staff in order to cover these events. And so it's an added budget, you know, added to our budget, not just while we're, you know.
Well, Saturday morning, my little boy had football, but there were, how many officers did you have, were on duty? I mean, just Saturday morning, for example.
Yeah, for the event, we had 4 officers just because of the amount of intersections. So to close off that path or that route, we needed 3 additional officers on.
Yeah, because you had that, you had
And you had 2
Oktoberfest.
public works.
You know, and I mean, there was how many different events going on? Like 3-4 different events?
Yeah, it was a busy morning.
I was you couldn't get anywhere.
And we did look at what other communities do, and every single one of them that responded, and I had looked on this City County Managers Association where people post questions, and there had been, over the years, there was probably 3 different times this question was posed. And every single community that responded, at a minimum, charges for the actual cost of, you know, salary plus benefits and all that stuff, an hourly rate for officers and public works employees. A lot of them charged pretty substantial, up to, you know, over $1,000 for a permit fee, but every single one of them at least recouped their costs. And that's what we're looking at is, one, to recoup the costs, and then secondly, the other thing that and we're not asking for a motion or, you know, approval on this right now. This is the first shot at it. But we're also looking at having an application process, and that includes just a $50 administrative fee, because the other issue that we have is, I think by doing this, it will have people be more conscientious of staff time in it. Because we'll have, you know, this is the plan, oh no, we want to tweak it to this, and no, we're going to change it to that, and not having the maps. We want them to have the event planner plan it out more thoroughly and come with, you know, to come to the village with a proposal. This is what we want to limit back and forth and excess meetings and so forth. Is that a fair summary of it, guys?
Yeah, you know, and I would agree in that through the application process, just to get an idea or gauge for how many hours they're going to need, because if I ask an officer to be there X amount of hours, they plan their day around that, you know, so just to get a better handle on, you know, what they're going to need for services and have an understanding of what that looks like. So I think it's beneficial on my end to do it that way.
So how would you split that up? Just for instance, saying Saturday you had 3 events.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how would you split the cost?
Because
By
I think 3 different
hours?
events.
Probably the
Like
same way you
say-
would on your timesheet, you know,
Yeah,
you keep track.
so you had so many hours covering the dash, so many hours at the wrestling thing, so many hours
Correct.
at Oktoberfest.
I think that would have to go back to the kind of the planning phase of it and knowing what we need for coverage and who's going to have to be where for what amount of hours, and, you know, divvy that out accordingly. I think that would be the best way to handle that. But you're right, we're going to have those situations. It's kind of a rarity that we had 3 things going on like that in one day, but it does happen. I think you just have to plan for it.
But then too, you kind of know too, like, okay, flag football is kind of a really busy day
Yeah.
at the high school. And you guys weren't anticipating the flag football, I don't think. Because all of a sudden it was just like we were blocked from 2 different ways, which we were able to use parking lot, not a big deal. But even part of that planning phase of it too, what other events go on in the community on this day
Right.
that we have nothing to do with? But,
Right.
Yeah.
Right, they
I
come
like the idea of just the planning part of it.
And I think it's, you know, like Carl had said, this was actually started last year, but then it was just kind of put on the back burner. And what prompted bringing it forward again is, one is because of, you know, realizing, you know, trying to fill you know, how much resources it does take to do it. And then secondly, because, you know, knowing you know, how I keep talking about how tight budget is in 2018, I think it would be, certainly raise eyebrows if we're cutting programs, but then at the same time providing services at no cost for these events where it's costing the village. So we just want to, you know, throw it out there as a proposal for now, and then, you know, look at it in more detail and potentially have a, you know, we could have a joint meeting of the Public Safety Committee and the Public Works Committee to go over and hammer out the
Maybe we'll make a
details.
committee to hold then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To hammer out the details and make a recommendation, but if possible, I'd like to have this in place to make it clean for the 2018 January 1, for not only to make it clean for a calendar year, you know, so that now it's in place, but also for a budget, as it would be nice to be able to project at just, you know, we'd be very conservative in the projection of revenue from it, but that will also help in the budget.
Are you hoping with this that you will prompt these event people to do more of their own stuff instead of asking for Public Works help?
I'd say our number one priority on it is to have them plan it in advance and have it more thought out rather than, you know, multiple meetings and changing and stuff like that. So be more cognizant of staff resources on the planning part of it, but then also, I don't think it's really to go provide their own, because if they can, that's fine. I mean, we're not looking at it to be a money maker, just to cover our costs. So I guess I wouldn't say we're necessarily not doing that or doing it. It is what it is. It's just that we want to make sure that we cover our costs when we do provide it.
I know Dash Down Nash did a lot of their own cones and picked them all up, you know, that sort of thing.
And that's fine. Yeah.
Kind of take some of that off of
they're gonna
the
have-
village workers.
Yeah, regardless of if they come up with a map or a plan, that's still gotta be reviewed by the PD and Public Works.
Yeah.
You know, maybe or we may have to reroute them, or we may have to offer alternatives.
Mhm.
So, again, it's just to recover labor. We're not gonna charge them per barricade, you know, like we get charged from the county, you know, per truck, for, you know, mileage on the vehicles, that kind of. We're not looking for that, we're just looking to recoup labor costs, because it does add up.
Sure.
Dash Down Nash, for example, is pretty costly, to be honest. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but you know, compared with the event down at the park, that was minimal compared to Dash Down Nash. So,
Yeah, I think there were like 200.
yeah.
Well, when you do road closures, you have to, you know, for the most part, you almost have to have officers there on some of those intersections, just because of the way traffic flow is, you know, we're not capable to just put, or able to just put barricades there, you know, especially at our heavily traveled intersections. So, I mean, I think we realize we have to do some of those things, but again, to recoup, you know, those hours that officers are coming in, so.
I said I had 2 hours in Public Works, and I forget how many you had total.
Yeah, I think we had a little over 10 hours of man hour for,
Yeah.
you know, between the officers for the event, for the,
You add all that up and multiply that by overtime and benefits.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, from what you're saying, if they got the plan, we would know ahead of time, okay, they're going to be doing
Yeah.
certain
Right.
parts of it.
They would submit the plan, and
You don't, you know, they won't need somebody for it, because it'll be there.
I think you're always going to need, for sure, the officers, because that corner,
right?
Oak and Nash was.
And that's part of the review process for the permit. When they
Yes.
submit the permit, it would go to us, and we would
Yeah.
decide if that's what they need, or they need more, or they need less, or
Yeah,
maybe they don't need anything from
yeah,
us.
that's good.
But do you have that, the same day, wasn't it something behind Porks where part of the alley was closed?
The wrestling.
The rest, okay, so, but did you need an officer there blocking that off? That was more of a barricade thing.
Yeah, that was a
So
barricade
But
thing, yeah.
planning wise, then you would know that up front.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that still required public works people to go
Yeah.
out there and to place the
So you know
barricades and so
where you
forth,
need,
so.
yeah. I like the idea of the planning ahead.
And we're looking at doing it for basically, any event that's not sponsored by the village.
Right.
So, I guess I would say then that we'd like to schedule a committee of the whole meeting before the next board meeting.
I believe there's already one scheduled.
Okay.
We have the educational session.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, that's gonna be lengthy. Well, I shouldn't say lengthy. That's scheduled for 45 minutes. This is if you recall, I had asked UW Extension, the community development agent, to do some training, refresher for board and other elected officials. So I invited all of the surrounding communities. I sent them emails too to say if they want to bring their, have their elected officials come here. And it's going to be different things like open meetings, public records. I'm trying to think of some of the other
Voting
things.
strategies.
Excuse me?
Voting strategies.
Yeah. So that's going to be, there's 3 sessions, and the first one is before the next board meeting. We've got a committee of the whole meeting for that
I
then.
believe it's October, November, and January.
Yeah,
So.
What time is?
5:45.
yeah. We scheduled it for 45 minutes. So then how about the meeting after that? The board meeting after the next
I
one,
think that's the 18th.
to put a committee of the whole on it for this.
Can't remember.
The 19th, Thursday, October
I'll
19th.
look here to make sure because I always get my dates wrong.
19th.
Okay, yep, 5th and 19th. Okay, 10, 19.
And that one's, again, that one, what time do you want that one, the committee of the whole for the 19th?
For the policy.
Let's just put it tentative on here now because I don't know if we'll have any more agenda items. I mean, that's a month out yet. So by then we might have a different, additional agenda items. So,
I'm just gonna put it for an hour, just
okay,
tentative.
sure,
What was that, Nick?
the 19th.
October.
But don't throw it away. Okay.
All right.
Quiet here.
Okay, we're done with that one. Any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion?
You and I talked about that where I'm going to try to invite, I haven't got on the back burner, but I'm going to invite Representative Token and Senator Coles to see if they'll come. I'm inviting them on behalf of the board. I asked Al about this, to see if they'll come to a board meeting and to help us understand Highway 15. Or just, they represent us to come see us and talk to us.
Oh, I see the DOT should have a little extra money. The governor vetoed the I-94 part out west. So
Yeah, the
that
earmark.
should throw a little money in there.
Well, and actually that's part of my, well, yeah, we can go on, if we're done with this agenda item, that's part of my administrator report, so we can,
Yeah, that's next in line is the administrator.
yep.
So you might as well hit us up on it.
Well, I just thought I'd see, any other topics for future discussion?
Well, yeah.
You had
Anybody else
mentioned the
got
one.
any?
Okay, all right. So, yeah, as Al said, is that the governor used one of his vetoed proposed earmarking of the I-94 project in western Wisconsin. And so that puts that project in with the others of what's called the major projects. So I don't know how those are prioritized yet. That's really the only shot that Highway 15 has, is that basically neither were enumerated, so they were not, no funds were earmarked specifically for these projects. So they're in with the pot of other projects with a limited amount of funding. And so that's why that last letter that I had you guys all sign was asking the governor to prioritize Highway 15. We still need to, I encourage everybody to still do that with both the governor and with the DOT secretary. And if you recall, a group of us went down to Madison back in July asking the Secretary of Transportation to prioritize Highway 15. So my understanding is that that's where this is. It's not that it's dead, it's not legislatively delayed or eliminated, but that it's in a pot with limited money to go towards it, and it depends on who's on first. And I have, at this point, I have not figured out who's on first, if there's any prioritization. The governor just signed the budget today, and DOT will not speak about projects prioritization until after the governor has signed the budget. So they were silent on it up until now, and the governor signed the budget today, so maybe we'll start hearing something, I don't know. However, the thing that has me concerned is that I've seen 2 media outlets reporting that the budget delayed Highway 15. I'm hoping that's just a interpretation on their part and not direct language, because if it's in the budget, if it uses the word delay, if it specifically says that in the budget, then that means that it's legislatively delayed. If that's just the media's interpretation of it on saying that it hasn't been directly funded, so they're assuming it's delayed, that means something entirely different. And I haven't been able to get an answer on that yet. I suspect that it has not been legislatively delayed, that it's just in this pot of money waiting for prioritization. I think that was just, that I'm hoping and thinking that was, with the media not realizing the extreme significance of that one word. So that's all I know at this point. The budget was signed by the governor at 2 o'clock this afternoon, I think it was, in Neenah, and that's where they released the vetoes. And I did read through the 99 vetoes, and the one about the personal property tax that we were hoping would not be in there, that did go through, so that was not vetoed. They did have, if you recall, that's where the village of Hortonville could, if they eliminated it completely, the village could have stood to lose $96,000. I got the number right that time. And they did have some funding to basically plug that hole. However, I know the League of Municipalities was still had concerns over it, because that personal property tax goes up with inflation as the assessment increases, but the funding hole that they, the plug that they used does not account for any kind of inflation. And also there's still concerns on how it's going to impact us and other municipalities as far as like TIDs, because a lot of personal property taxes are in the assessment for TIDs, and so now that could affect closure and all kinds of other things, because now that isn't on the books for the TIDs. And also how it would affect municipalities' debt capacity. So.
So do you recommend we contact anybody with the DOT? Is there anything we can do as?
I don't know right now. It's just trying to keep up, not only keep up with it, but just to try to get information has been very challenging, and trying to understand what it means and all that stuff. So right now it's too soon. I will contact you when I find out more information. And then while this doesn't impact the village of Hortonville, I know that a lot of municipalities are very pleased with it. It doesn't affect us directly, but I think it does affect us in the fact that it was another attempt to take away local control, is that the budget did include a provision that took away local communities or local municipalities' regulatory authority over quarries. The governor vetoed that too. So that was, I know that was, like I said, it doesn't affect us directly because we don't have quarries, but the fact that there seems to be a continuous erosion of local control over regulation of things is frustrating. The other example was left in the budget where municipalities cannot prohibit rentals of single-family residential properties under 7 days. It used to be able to be eliminated or regulated, and now municipalities can. So that's where the state budget is, and then I actually meant to put this as a separate one of the municipal budget, but I'll just pass this around. Is I've been telling you guys, you know, as we've been going along, forewarning you that 2018 is very scary, very tight. So I've got in here some of the budget challenges. If you recall, last year we qualified for the expenditure restraint revenue, and that was $51,000, and we knew at that time that the likelihood of us qualifying again was nil. So we knew we were plugging some holes last year with 51-time money. So that's our first challenge. Then our net new construction is 1.47%, so that means that we can only raise levy by $13,000 over last year. When you look at a $1.6 million budget, being able to increase by $13,000 and health insurance going up 17% and inflation going up 2%, that's putting us in a hole. Some other concerns or challenges was with the police union contract. We had 3 probationary officers that will all become regular full-time officers, and by contract that means an increase in their hourly rate that is set, and that means about $30,000 for next year, just in payroll. And then of course there's associated retirement and FICA that is tied to payroll. And then, as I mentioned before, our health insurance premium increase from added family members is about $38,000. And then right now we're working the budget to try to do a 2% wage increase. Some of the good news is some of our revenues are up. Opera House rent, in the past we've slowly increase that budget amount because we have been successful in increasing the usage of the Opera House. Our building permits have gone up. So in the past we've budgeted 12.5. Now we feel comfortable at 18, and actually this year we'll be bringing in 30.
And that's with the reduced rate?
Yes. And as I mentioned last time with the summer recreation, I have the revenues and the expenditures completely equaling each other. So in the past that was subsidized by about $8,000 of levy, and so with the increased rates, which I think still are extremely reasonable, $150 for residents, $225 for non-residents, and that's for a 6-week program. So if we raise them to that level, then we will have, that summer rec program will have 0 impact on the levy. And then these are just some of the proposals that staff has been working through this. To use $10,000 from the comprehensive plan reserve towards the operating budget. This is every year we put money towards a comprehensive plan review and update. And so we have money in there and we have not needed it at this point. So Lynn and I were talking and we are comfortable with taking $10,000 from there. So it's not really rating it because we haven't had to use it.
We left enough money in there to cover another update, so we are not behind on it.
Right. Let's see where they. Okay, and then I mentioned the summer rec program. Oh, I have it on there twice. I see. Some of the things that then we're just looking at some of the reductions in expenditures is our planning and mapping. We're looking at reducing it $5,000 for next year. Our health reimbursement arrangement that I mentioned earlier is going to reduce that expenditure by about just over $6,000. And then the next listing are things that we are proposing that we suspend for 2018. And when I say suspend, I'm saying that if in 2019, if we have funds, then we'll need to prioritize and see what goes back in. Not to say all of it will. And I know one of them is going to be a couple of them are not going to be well liked. One of the things I'm proposing is the newsletter switch to being email, electronic copies only. The newsletter costs us about $6,000 a year. If we switch to doing constant contact and put like weekly or monthly emails out, that would save us $5,500. Another thing I'm putting in here to save $2,000 is to eliminate the chipping of brush for residents to do drop off and pick up, not of the grass, to still keep grass clippings and that, but it costs us a lot of money to chip all that brush at the yard waste site. And some of these other ones are where our capital reserve fund, where we still have money in there, and every year we try to put more in, but we're proposing suspending that for 2018. That includes oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we have enough in there for now that we can afford to let it sit.
Sorry, go ahead.
And just some of the others, we still, we have money in the town drive lights, but what we're talking about is not adding to our savings in 2018.
A proposed 2% increase is what effect, just generally, to the budget?
I don't know it on its own, because I can come back with that information, show you.
And I don't need that, I was just
Right.
wondering, is it 10,000, is it 100,000, is it?
For Public Works, for entire Public Works, our net position's up $2,300.
So it'd be $2,300 for public works?
Well, the net position, by the time all the salaries are done.
That was with the increases in salary and the decreases of the different cuts. So we don't know just straight salary. I'd have to look at
And the only
that.
reason I'm asking is I'm
Yeah.
just doing real quick math here. It looks like without that, we're probably in the hole maybe $30,000 to $40,000. If you take all the negatives and all the positives, but that doesn't include the wage increase. So, if the wage increase is $100,000, we're $130,000. $10,000, we're probably close.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
It's
Yeah,
not anywhere
and-
near 10,000, I know that.
I know that probably, I think I figured it out last year, I think it was like 65% of our budget is salary.
Absolutely, yes. It's salary and then it's staff resources.
It's just staff.
It's just, I hate to go there because as I mentioned, you weren't here at that point, I don't think. If you look at the pay of similar communities.
I know, we're way below.
Yeah, we're low. And same with our
That's why it's really hard to say.
our health
80%,
insurance
hey.
too, right. The thing is frankly, that's where you see more people leave.
Absolutely. I
That's
understand.
2% for Public Works, I can't speak for.
Anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know that offhand. So at this point, with all of this and putting in, we've been going through looking at rolls, what we can roll from 2017 into 2018 is, as of just before this board meeting, we are about $3,000 over our levy cap with all these cuts and additions. However, I have not yet factored in, put in the either HRA, waiver payment or health insurance, whichever one would end up happening with the police chief. So I'm still working on, I have a salary punched in there, but I still got to figure out what that total compensation package would be for the police chief that we talked about last time. So
Thank you.
we started out this morning at 80,000 over, and now we're at 2,000 over, so we are closing that gap, but. So I wanted you guys to see all of this so that you were aware of the proposed cuts that we're gonna be bringing forward when it's time to get on the budget, so that you're not blindsided by it. I just wanna make sure that everybody's aware of what we're rating.
Well, I want to say that I appreciate what you're doing preemptively. I've just been a number of years when we had a different administrator, we'd have our budget meeting and it would be, we're $1 million over budget. And it would be like,
Yeah.
everybody
We don't want to put you through.
No, and
come back
every,
and then they'd be in budget and it was just, it's refreshing to see that we're taking care of it before you're doing what you need to do without having us go, well, what if we take $50 out of this line item and $25 out of this line item? That's just not where I think we should be. That's where you need to be, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I mean, it's very much a team thing,
Oh, no, and when I say thank you, I'm looking at you, but I'm talking to all of you. It's very much appreciated. I know how difficult it is, so. And going through different types of budgeting, this is refreshing.
Did have a question with Carl about the chipping. What do you do with the brush?
Well,
You don't chip it?
she said eliminate, but actually we're scaling back. Eventually, we'd like to eliminate it, or actually what we'd like to do is, here in the next couple of years, Greenville might approach us to have like a unified chip site, LNJJ, or brush site, whereas our people that want to haul stuff there would have to get a $15 or a $20 sticker.
Yeah, what I'm proposing on here is that, I mean, we have it no matter what, because we've got village trees and brush.
Yeah.
What I'm proposing suspending for 2018 is to have residents drop off all their brush and chip that, and the spring and fall where we go around and pick up brush, we'll continue to do it for the grass clippings and the stuff that doesn't need to be chipped, but it's saying that we will chip village brush
Yeah.
from village property,
Yeah.
not residential brush.
We don't really have a lot of control of the brush because it's open 24/7. And one of the things we might attempt to do is fence that off and only have it open during the workday or Saturday morning.
What if a can of gas accidentally fell on it and burned?
We used to find
you're
that.
being recorded, Kelly.
It's not illegal.
The fire department's next
We
to
have
you.
the best fire department in the world. They might not have to be there the quickest.
Well, but I
Then they're gonna increase their
We used to do
budget.
that. We get complaints about
high school
smoke.
used to have these bonfires, and a lot of that stuff would just disappear at bonfire time or homecoming.
Anyway,
You know, we
So
always
that-
did burn it.
I was going to say, there used to be a
Can't
big
we
bonfire
still
down there.
burn it?
We can, the smoke used to go over towards Crystal Springs and they would
Yes.
complain. and
Yes, that's a chance.
Now we have the townhomes right next to the wastewater plant. It's all we can do to keep them from complaining. We don't, not really about smells, but
So
we've gotten
the
encroached.
stink from the water and sewer plant,
Well, we
we
don't-
have to
well,
do
our
something like
plant-
that?
it really isn't a big there.
It doesn't, our plant doesn't really stink.
Oh,
Why don't we burn it behind the fire hall?
They can
They're
start
all right
trucking.
there.
It could actually be a fundraiser. We could do a
I was just
bonfire.
gonna
It could be a
bring that
fundraising event.
Marshmallow rolls.
Marshmallow
Not at
rolls.
the fire hall, but we'll do something else.
Bonfire. Yeah.
I think we should have the school
We'll be there,
still
but-
do the bonfires, and then we could get rid of all our brush.
That's what my daughter's school, that's what they used to do. Instead of a
Yes.
homecoming dance, they did a homecoming bonfire.
Yes,
We used to
We did.
until our class.
We did.
Yep.
I never heard of that
It's
until
the
like.
insurance nightmare. Yep.
If I get the new drop-off site for the yard waste constructed out of the way, then we'd have more room to burn. Maybe we could burn smaller piles, quicker intervals.
That's something to look
So,
at.
yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
the next item I had on here is Chief of Police hiring process update. The reason I put this on here is actually not for your benefit, because you are all are part of the process, but I thought this is something that we should just notify the public of, to let them know where we are in the process. So it's just to say that we are in the interviewing process, and I think I think it's safe to say that our goal is to have a chief of police. We think it's completely feasible to have in place by December 1. So it's just mainly to let the public know that we have received applicants, we are interviewing, and continuing with the process.
And that's it?
That's all I have.
Clerk treasurer.
Okay, the first thing is the election equipment purchase update. And Outagamie County and the purchasing committee have chosen a company, and they have given them an intent to award the contract for the purchase of the new equipment for 2018. I just received a communication this week that they are planning on having the training in place and using that equipment for the first election in 2018. We will have one piece of equipment that we will be using here We still do not have a firm number on the purchase cost, but Outagamie County is still moving forward with the intent to do 50% of the cost. They had given us estimates on it, and as I said at the last meeting, I do have the cost covered in our budget with no effect on the levy. So I worked on some finagling for that so we could cover it and not have it impact the voters and their property tax bills. But that one is moving forward. The last piece was the financial report that was a part of your packet.
Any questions, Tony?
Sorry.
You're welcome. Director of Public Works.
Oh, let me pull it up.
Gotta be a little quicker, Carl.
All right, industrial park paving update. I drove through there at 5 today, and it appears as though they've got all the asphalt down, all the patches done, all the aprons completed. I think tomorrow they're gonna come back in and do the shouldering and possibly the striping on the older part of the industrial park. We're trying to keep people off those shoulders as you go around that bend, so yeah, it looks pretty good. Pretty nice. And I know it's not on here, it's not up for discussion, but all the utilities are in Wildwood subdivision, the water and sewer utilities and storm are, the storm's almost all installed, but all the water and sewer is installed, and they'll be inspected and tested next week, so.
So we can bump up the building permit revenue even more?
Yeah, we might be able to, yeah. But they're moving along pretty good. A little hiccup with the dynamiting of the rock, but they've moved on pretty fast. So they'll be transitioning over to Pine Street for the water and sewer here in another 2 weeks. Still plenty of time to get the asphalt down, the prayers and patch. By mid-October, they should be in there, so be done with that. So that's all I have.
Brian?
Yeah, the only thing is, and I know Lynn put it in the pack, is the letters that I sent out to all the establishments that hold alcohol licenses. I had one question on it, but it was, they were under a clear understanding why we sent it out after the discussion, so.
Good.
That's all.
Library Director.
The Friends of the Library did the kids' games at Oktoberfest last weekend, and they raised over $500. That goes back into the library, so that's exciting. And obviously our book sale is tomorrow and Saturday, and we have high hopes for that. So that's that. Local history archives. You may recall that our local history projects are part of the library's strategic plan that we wanted to further develop our local history collection and work on building up interest in local history here, since we already have a strong interest in local history in this community. And one of the things we're doing is we have a couple of volunteers now who are working on better organizing the local history documents that we have, putting them into binders so they can circulate safely. And eventually that project is going to conclude with digitizing all of those documents and putting them on the state's digital library so everybody can access them. So we're finally getting going on that, and that's going pretty well so far. That's it.
That's it. Bob's not here. Do we have a building permit report? Oh, yes. I didn't print it off. Is there any questions on the building permit report? Not, we'll go on to presentation of accounts and other claims against the village.
The voucher list consists of deposits of payroll deductions and vouchers number 23956 through 24014 in the amount of $66,699.32. Direct deposit payroll in the amount of $31,748.24. Water and sewer utility vouchers number 10157 through 10162 in the amount of $55,488.99.
Any questions on the voucher list?
I'd make a motion to approve.
We'll second it.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Approved. Communication and miscellaneous business.
One thing you guys got, Lynn made copies for me, I forgot to bring the budget, our remaining budget for the fire department, as well as the EMS. That was that.
Comments and suggestions from citizens, we don't have any. We'll need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 5 minutes to clear the room.